Steven Gerrard signed 15 players in his first transfer window for Rangers, so let's tier list them all. Rank them into great, good, average, bad, and awful. And you know what? Sometimes you don't even have enough players to fit all five categories, but with 15, and I'm willing to bet good money that at least one of them are going into every category, because I think for 15 of them, you're not going to get 15 great, and well, some could argue you could get 15 awful, but let's dive into it. We're going to go from left to right. There was a few loans, there was permanents, there was basically just like pre-contracts and all that good stuff. But with 15 to get through, there will be a few people that have already kind of ranked. I think I've ranked Ryan Kent in the season after one where we signed him permanently. But again, it's hard to kind of keep track of it. But again, he's going to get the same ranking. It's not like I'm going to keep him in great in the last one. Then this one I'm going to be like, actually, you know what? Seeing the 2 weeks since then, he's fucking shite. No, we're not doing that. We're going from left to right. And I'll factor their transfer fees in a wee bit. But Nikola Gatic, I thought this guy was really good. And I don't understand why he was never really given another chance after his injury. The most notable Katic moment, in my opinion, is when he scored that goal against Celtic at Parkhead and we won 2-1. That was fucking brilliant. Gerrard screaming at the camera. I always remember that. I believe, what did we sign him for? We signed Nikola Katic for 2.28 million, and he was only 21 years of age. He's still really young, like Katic, but again, it just never really worked out, and I'm going to put him in average. Like, I really want to sit here and say he was great or good, and I think if he didn't get that injury, fuck it, I think he'd still be there. I think long term, him and GOLDSON could have been the partnership, but it wasn't. Next up, we've got Grezda. We signed this guy for 2 million. It's awful, I'm afraid. I actually can't even. I think he scored a goal against Ross County, mind him. It was like 5 years ago, so if the memory is a bit shaky, I don't know. But he was awful. That is the category to describe this guy. I actually think we didn't lose too much out on him, which is a positive. But again, the guy just did not force his way into the starting team and left rather quickly. Next up, we have Jamie Murphy. This guy was assigned initially on loan, I believe, from Burton Albion, wasn't he? Not from Brighton. Then we loaned him out to Burton Albion. So we signed 2 players for Brighton, which is a weird one. I think the other one will be get a higher rating. But for Jamie Murphy, I'd say he's average behind Katic. But to me, that seems harsh on Katic. But I think for circumstances out of Katic, because control, he has to remain in average. Joe Worrell, again, another guy who's went on to do good things with Nottingham Forest. But at Rangers, did he really? It was only a loan that Joe Worrell was there for. And again, I'd say he was alright. So I'm going to put him behind Murphy, because I don't think he was bad. But, we didn't keep him permanently, and I don't really see much of that. But next up with Connor Goldson, I think he's easily Rangers' best defender since Gerrard came in, if we're counting that from when we signed him. But again, he's obviously been the most consistent, but I've been critical of Goldson. The guy costs us mistakes. He does. The Europa League final will always stick in my head. It was fucking shocking. I think some people need to open their eyes. Goldson is not immortal. He does make mistakes, but that doesn't change the fact that he's been the best Rangers defender for a long time. But anyway, we've got Scott Arfield up next, and I'm going to put Scott Arfield in good. He's done a really good service the last 5 years. Loads of goals, crucial goals, assists. He's just a guy who will give you 110% every time he's on the pitch, and that is all we can really ask for. Next up, we have got Ejaria. Signed him on loan. Was it from Reading we signed him on loan? No, it was actually Liverpool. No, he's at Reading now. He wasn't awful, but I wouldn't say he was average, so I'm going to put him in bad. I think he was alright at the start, and then I believe he just absolutely nosedived after that. Next up with Umar Sadiq. This guy's going last. We will struggle to find someone worse than him. He doesn't know the offside trap, and he was abysmal. I remember that time when Morelos gets sent off before the semi-final against Aberdeen, and everyone's sitting there greeting, holy fuck, with to play Umar Sadiq in a semi-final at Hampden against Aberdeen. And I remember during the game, Gerrard's having to teach him the fucking offside rule. No, I don't want to think about that, man. That was abysmal, and he has to go last. He well and truly has to go last. Next up, we have Borna Barisic. Again, I mean, people would say he's in the same category as Goldson, right? Maybe most people say he's not as good as Goldson, which I agree with. But like, he plays for Croatia, right? He's basically been our starting left back for 5 years. But is that because there've been no other options? Like when Bassi broke into the team, he fucking knocked Barisic out the team until like we might play a different formation, free at the back, blah 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 under Gio, but. I wouldn't describe Barisic as great. I would describe him as good. Very good, but not great, because great is reserved for, great. Next up, we've Gareth Macaulay from Larne. Absolute dump Larne is. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. Again, we kind of just signed him. It was probably just one of those things he wanted to tick off his list that he played for Rangers. I think he only played like 9 games. I wouldn't say he was particularly awful, but I wouldn't say he was particularly average or good, so I'm going to put him bad below Ejaria. Next up, you can't actually see his face, but this is John Flanagan. Again, Gerard kind of knew him. He was like, I see that season I slipped on my arse, mate, and I bottled the fucking league for us. Come on up to Rangers and bottle the league for us. But no, I remember him against UFA in the Europa League qualifiers where we managed to scrape through. We went down to 9 men. I believe he was actually one of the 2 that got sent off. But he was a decent enough player. Like, he was obviously never good enough, but again, he came in, he did a job, he wasn't awful. I'd probably put him behind Joe Worrell. Next up with Kyle Lafferty. Now, a lot of people are going to be critical of this move when we signed him for it says here it was 502k. I actually thought it was for less than that. Kind of weird signing Lafferty for that amount. But Lafferty, 5 years ago, was a bit more rated than he was now, because of course he plays for Linfield, and Linfield are shite, so I digress. But at the time, I don't think this was a bad move, personally. The guy was alright, but again, not spectacular, and this could have panned out differently, but it didn't. And I'm going to put Kyle Lafferty top of bad. Next up, we have got Koulibaly, another guy who signed on loan, better than Ejaria. So I'm going to put him just in front of John Flanagan. Next up, with Ryan Kent, I'm going to put him in front of Connor Goldson. Consistently great. I know there is times he'll go missing in terms of stats, but he is the one guy when he gets the ball in a game and he will fucking put fear into defenders. We saw recently, like on this day shite they did with the Dortmund game, and just seeing like his fucking work for the Lundstrom goal, man. Quality. So underrated and underappreciated. But anyway, that brings us to our last player, and it is Alan McGregor. Of course, it's kind of teetered off towards the end here. If he retired last year, I'm like, holy fuck, what a comeback to Rangers. But again, this year has kind of been, I wouldn't say it's been awful this year. It's been bad this year for me. I'm going to put him top of good. That may seem harsh, but he should have called it a day at the end of last year. And if you want to put him in great, I have no problem. But top of good, borderline great is where he should stick, guys. But anyway, I want you to leave your thoughts down below. And the next one after this will be the 2018 winter window. Oh God, not looking forward to the Pedro era and, all that good stuff. But anyway, till next time, leave your thoughts down below and peace.